Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to CPTSD Awareness Day, the second annual CPTSD Awareness Day. My name is Athena, and I am the founder of the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research. And we are hosting the second annual CPTSD Awareness Day. You can learn more at cptsdfoundation.org. And if you don't already have your super cool, awesome Awareness Day wristbands, you can get those. You can support our mission of leaving a legacy of healing for future generations by going to cptsdfoundation.org and ordering a wristband. It's only $12, and you'll help a lot of people. You'll help us fulfill our mission. So thank you so much for being here. I have today with us, in keeping with everything we're talking about for CPTSD Awareness Day, I have with us today Svava Brooks, and she is a TRE practitioner. Tension and trauma release exercises are what we are going to talk about today. We have a question that was sent in by one of you, one of our community members, Cindy, and we're going to share that question, and we're going to answer that question. Svava is going to answer that question, and we're going to just sit here and talk casually about how we can feel more empowered, advocate for ourselves, and heal from repeated relational trauma. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Svava, and then we will bring up Cindy's question. Let me see if I can, you know how sometimes this doesn't work. I'm trying to get it to just do video only instead of a screen share. I'm wondering why it won't just do video instead of a screen share. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. Hi, Svava.
Hey, Athena.
Thank you. Here we are doing the thing. We're doing the thing. I'm so happy.
Glad to be here with you.
So why don't you just take a second? I know that you and I already recorded like a 3-hour half-day workshop for our community. And thank you so much for your generosity and your time in recording that half-day workshop. If you all already purchased your lifetime access to that workshop, it also comes with access to 2020's We Are Healing Trauma Summit from the very first annual CPTSD Awareness Day, which includes like 20 speakers, including Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and Svava is our keynote speaker this year. And she is the person who did the 3-hour half-day workshop, all on the topic of tension and trauma release exercises. And so I don't know, why don't you just share, Svava, and then whenever you want me to bring on Cindy's question, we'll go ahead and bring on Cindy's question, but I want you to have a chance to just share from your heart or talk to our community and just welcome to our family, our friendly family of choice.
Thank you, Athena. Thank you so much, and for inviting me to be here and to be a part of your community here for a little bit. And I just want to say I so appreciate the work that you're doing and the legacy you're working on and the profound understanding and your big heart that you bring to this work, because you and I know that it is in healing relationships, in healing communities, is where we heal a lot of the betrayals, right? A lot of that hurt. We need to do that in community. So I just really want to honor you and celebrate you. And I'm so happy for all of you that you have a place like this to come to. So, Athena, you know, I have a small community that I support in my own way, and it makes a lot of difference. I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for my people that I found, 20 some years ago, whatever, when I started my journey, because it was in those groups that I learned that basically I had survived my childhood disconnected, disassociated, right? Just frozen, out of body. And it was in the group where I could see myself in other women. I heard my story and their stories. And I was slowly able to turn towards this body and this being that I really did not know, except for like I knew how to put on a good face, right? That I was like, oh, okay, so it did have an impact on me. So it wasn't just something bad that happened in the past, that I'm over it. I don't need to talk about it. I need to go there.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm so grateful that you are on this journey and that you've sort of discovered. I had no idea that you found your community 20 years ago. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's so profound to hear you say that, because I started my healing journey 20 years ago, but didn't find my community until 7 years ago. So I sort of was like flying solo in a way for like 13 years, feeling rather insular and isolated and sort of tucked away, invisible, and just in an effort to protect myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first group that I found, again, I was very blessed, because I feel like back then and still today, in many ways, these groups are like the best kept secrets, right? Most of us, when we find them, we don't want anyone else to know about them, right? This is my my people, my safe place. Don't want anyone here. So, well, I was in that first group for about 5 years, and it was, before cell phones, right? We would collect each other's phone numbers, and we had them in speed dial on the old landline, right? So, but yes. But after that experience, that was when I knew at any point that I was going through a significant change in my life, or I knew I had reached a level that I wasn't going to heal or shift or transform on my own. I would go and find a group. So I can still kind of look back on my healing journey. Oh yeah, that's the group that I stayed with for 3 years while I figured this piece out. Oh yeah, that's the group that I was a part of for those years while I figured this piece out. Right?
You know what? I'm just realizing that I did something kind of similar and didn't know I was doing it.
Yes.
Because okay, so 20 years ago, I feel like I'm dating myself. This is hilarious. You and I are of a very similar generation. We're in the same generation, very similar age. So 20 years ago, like right around Y2K and all of that, I was heavily involved in my son's Little League community, because, he was 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, really just into sports. I was heavily involved with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and, his school and like parent teacher situation, all that kind of stuff. And I was learning what it was like. I was having reparative and restorative experiences with and for the 7 or 8-year-old me.
Yeah.
Just by showing up for him, just by being involved. And then fast forward 6 years, I moved across an ocean away from everyone and everything I'd ever known. And I discovered the book called Safe People. And I realized that there was a such thing as safety. So I stayed with my son's groups for as long as I was figuring out that piece. Then I found the Safe People book, and I joined a group of women who we were all going through the Safe People book. And then we moved on past the Safe People book. And then we did the Boundaries book. And then after that, we did like a different book, and we stayed together. We stayed together for 5 years. And so I healed that portion of my journey.
Yes.
I stayed with that community while I figured out that piece, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I sort of was very, very solo, even though I was plugged into like my church group, my ladies groups at church. That was a different piece, because I was learning, I was sort of receiving maternal type input from certain ladies in my church groups and healing some of those mother wounds and the mothering and the maternal things that I didn't have. I figured out that piece. And then I discovered this community 7 years ago. Like,
Wow.
oh my gosh. So isn't it interesting and strange and odd and sort of just indescribable, the level of connection and similarities that you and I have, even though we're on separate continents. And basically, we're from separate continents,
Yes.
legitimately.
Yes.
And yet our journeys have been so, so similar.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
I think a
It's
lot of people,
fascinating.
it is. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people right now are going, oh, me too. And like I have, like I know you have your own private practice and I have my own private practice. And then we both do community work as well, like volunteerism. And so like some of my private clients, I see their journey and they see my journey and they're like, oh, it's like I have one particular client. She's like, it's like we're twinning, like we're twins. Or like
Yes.
another one of my clients says, you're like my soul sister, or, oh my gosh, you're like the mom I never had, or like, you're like my long lost cousin, or my one client, he and his wife, I used to see them both, and he would be like, you're kind of like the girl next door that kind of knows everything. And we come to you and we ask you questions or to get cookies. Like,
Yes.
don't you find
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. And this is how it works, right? And this is the beauty of it. The more stories we see. I was just talking to a woman a couple weeks ago. We're similar age, right? And I was just gonna. I mean, I'm dating myself. My oldest is 27, and I started when I was pregnant with her. That's when I started in that 5-year group. I was like pregnant, going through support group, but anyways, it's like when we find each other, like this woman, she booked a 30-minute chat with me. And then she's just like, so I want to get to know you a little bit, of shared. And then afterwards, she sent me a message. She's like, oh my God, how many parallels in the healing and the journey. And my hope is that people take away that this is a process, right? This isn't an overnight, especially complex trauma, right? And that actually, it dawned on me quite a few years into this. It's like, wow, it's like I'm always just brought to the next piece, the next book, the next support group, the next mentor. When I'm like, okay, I've healed this piece, I understand this part. Of course things get recycled, of course. This isn't just a one direction we're going on this healing journey. Sometimes it feels like few steps back, and I often say sometimes we have to regress, and it's almost like growing up. We have to revisit that stage of development before we're really ready to let go and move forward and grow up from it. And I definitely see that in the healing journey. But I think for us as a community of survivors, it's like when we're like, well, I don't know what the journey is like. It's like more and more, yes, we do. We can see the parallels, we can see the development and the things that we learned, and the pieces that we picked up along the way, and they all build on themselves, right? It all builds. And
yeah,
just like I had kids and I was knee deep in my own work until the kids got old enough that they started triggering me, right? It's just like, oh my God, what do I do with this 5-year-old? And the 5-year-old inside of me, like, I don't like these kids. I should be the one getting the attention. Get rid of these kids. And I'd be like, oh my God, what's this inner child? You know what I mean? What is she talking about? I'm a horrible human being. So I had to parent her while I also signed up for parenting classes because I didn't know how to parent this little person outside of me. Right. And so I got myself some other moms. It's like, how do we do this? Right.
that's amazing.
And
It's so
yeah,
true. It's so
yeah,
true.
yeah. I see you smile. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I
Yeah,
do.
exactly. And then they go into becoming teenagers, and that's a whole nother set of triggers, when my
It
my
is.
baby girl, right, was gonna go to the dance and the parties, and oh my God, you mean I can't go with you, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
son is 28. And so you and I have children that are right around the same
Yeah.
age as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to him being able to have these experiences to go, oh my goodness, wow. Like raising his own children and going, wait a second, I remember that portion of my life, or like, I feel this way and I wonder what this means. And as long, like, we talk a lot about curiosity, like remaining curious, like just authentically curious about a situation. And it's almost like, um, if we're finding ourselves in a dissociative state or sort of checked out and we don't even realize it, one of the easiest and quickest ways that we can ground is to become curious and
Mhm.
start asking a question, right? And when you were raising your children and you were curious about how you could become a good mother and what you could do to raise this little one right outside of you, it is almost tear jerking for me to think of how special that was for little Spava, and
Yeah.
how reparative and restorative that was for her, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm
Yeah.
hoping
And
others get to experience that with you and I just having a very casual discussion.
yeah. Well, let me tell you, because I knew she was anxious about me being here today.
Oh,
I so I brought
hello, little Spava.
yeah, so I brought little Slava here with me, along with my other little babies. This
Oh
is
my.
when they were little, but they're big now, obviously. So I told little Slava, it's okay, baby girl. You can come just so you know, we're not gonna be in trouble, right? No, you don't have to pretend to do or know something you don't. We're just gonna have a casual conversation. And remember, baby girl, I'm the one doing this. You get to go play. I'm the one who is going on camera, and I know it can be scary. There you go. There she is. Oh, look, I love that dress. Oh my God. My daughters had a dress so similar when they were little. Oh, we're showing our baby pictures.
Yes. I mean, right?
Yeah, keeping it real. Keeping it real.
We gotta walk our talk, right? I mean,
That's right.
seriously.
That's right.
I think that's one of the most like helpful and co-regulating pieces of this healing journey is being able to meet people, even if it's only virtually. I mean, I know you and I know each other like in person, where we've had a chance to like sit down and have meals
Yeah.
together. But for others who we might not have had the privilege of meeting in person, they're meeting us virtually. And I'm hoping they can see us looking at them, and they see us walking our talk and going, this stuff's hard. And we gotta be able to like connect with those younger versions of ourselves that might still be scared, or that might still be experiencing anxiety or uncertainty or terror, or maybe they're just checked out or dissociated because they don't really know how to cope, and or maybe they're, trying to fix everything and make everything okay and make everyone perfect and make everyone feel better. Like that's one of the
Yes.
hardest parts, I think, of our healing journey. Don't you think? Do you have a tendency, or did you have a tendency to need everyone to be okay?
Yes. Yes. Especially since that was my role in the family. I became the mom, right? And I protected my siblings, right? So of course, then, and that was an important role, and I liked it. It made me feel purpose, right? So it was a really strong identity that I felt it mattered. Like I mattered when I was in this role. When I wasn't in that role, then who am I? Right? So yes, yes. definitely, definitely. And just, you know, talking to my inner child, right? Talking about complex trauma and knowing what our nervous system and my brain, right? It's like my nervous system is hardwired to get hijacked pretty easy because things got too intense. I checked out, or I went into, you know, hyper anxious, over functioning, super productive mode. So, and so when I do things in life that are like on the edge of my comfort zone, that's when she goes, ooh, slow down. And then I have to, right, turn to my body and turn to this part of me, this little girl that lives inside of that. She's the first one. It's like, oh, there's anxiety in here. What's going to happen? Right. So I get to be the parent. Hey, baby girl. Yes, I know. I'm looking forward to this conversation with Athena. I know you can feel my nerves. You know that we want to do a good job, and you know that we want to, right? But it's going to be okay. You're not going to be in trouble. We're not going to be in trouble, right? But just giving her the space to tell me. And I'm not like pushing her off or minimizing, and just acknowledging her. It's like, hey, baby girl, I hear you. I see you. I feel you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was so soothing just to hear you describe your interaction with your younger self. I think sharing your version of what that might look like gives not only me, but others permission to try doing something similar when they're ready, only if and when they're ready.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and that's, Athena, so much of the work that I see us doing, it is that we model, right? People do look to us for modeling certain things that, you know, I had no models, right? There were things, that's why I went and learned about parenting, because like the parenting I saw, no, I don't want anything to do with that. That wasn't parenting. I had made up stories about my mom was amazing and my dad, well, he was fine. But no, that's not parenting. So I had to go relearn, right? But so that's part of what I think we do, and we give people permission. And that brings me to the question that I think you got in your community, right? It said when we see something modeled or we see someone do something that resonates deeply.
Yes.
So you want to share the question?
Yeah. I want to, I gotta get my glasses on because hello, I'm getting old. I'm just the right age. It's okay. I'm going to pull up Cindy's question, and just so all of you know, if you ever send in a question, and I'm sure Svava has something similar in her community as well, like you're always gonna, your confidentiality and your anonymity are always going to be honored. Unless you give me permission to use your name will never be used. So I'm going to share a question from Cindy because Cindy gave me permission to use her question. Can you see that okay, Svava?
No, I don't see it on your screen, but yeah, there it is. It just was a delay. Yeah, got it.
Good. So if I move this over here, is that better? That way it's not blocking, like if I move.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, there, that's better. Oops, nope. Let me see if I can do it again. That's better. Awesome. Okay, let me move this down here. Okay. I think. Okay. So I got to get kind of close because I want to be able to read this. Cindy says, I had the most interesting experience this morning. I was sitting in my recliner watching a TRE video. And after the video, I was trying to motivate myself to exercise, which is not normally a challenge. But there was this part of me that was resisting all exercise. As I was curiously observing this happening, my stomach and lower abdomen started tremoring on their own. and it is still doing it. I did none of the pre-exercises, nor was I trying to do it. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with this, but it seems like my body is trying to release something. Any thoughts or suggestions? And I have a question for you, Svava, before you
Yep.
address Cindy's question.
Yep.
So I have a whole bunch of feedback that our community members shared with Cindy, including myself. I mean, I just basically asked her for her permission to use her name, but is it okay if I share? I didn't ask you this ahead of time. I should have asked you this ahead of time, but is it okay to share with you the feedback that our community gave to her? And that
Absolutely.
way your response can be not only in response to Cindy's question, but in all of the other anonymous community members. There's just a few, there's only five answers.
Yep.
Then your response will be in response to all 5 answers and not only Cindy's question. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm not going to bring it up on the screen because I want it to remain anonymous. So I'm just going to read to you what our community members said in response to Cindy. So Cindy says, okay, so that was Cindy's question. And then Cindy, right after she posted that, also said, oh my word, I know what that is now. It is a suppressed sob. I did that a lot as a child, sobbing without making a sound. My body is sobbing and I'm not in touch with any of the emotions in the moment. And then one of the community members responded to Cindy and says, yes, your body is definitely releasing, which is wonderful. I experienced this when I was practicing yoga and my thighs suddenly started trembling. I welcomed and flowed with it and learned later that my body was releasing trauma. And then another community member says, Cindy, it sounds like your body's letting you know it's ready to release some. I congratulate you for your awareness. How are you feeling? What else did you notice? I'm holding a safe space for you. And then Cindy responded and said, thank you for checking in. After all of that happened, I felt like I'd been through EMDR and I needed a nap. And that's how I felt, Swaba, after my session with you. I felt like I had just had EMDR and that I needed a nap. So, and then Cindy says, but I felt strangely calm. I've been over functioning ever since. And I just slowed down today and it's caught up with me. I need to make the time to process it. I know I have trauma in my body and I desperately want it out. Thank you for holding a safe space for me. And then the response to that was, be kind to yourself, Cindy. Be kind with yourself, little Cindy, and your body. Needing a nap makes sense. I can appreciate how feeling calm afterwards can feel strange. It's something new and it sounds like it was needed. There are times when I will go into overdrive and experience something unconsciously. I think this can be expected for those with the trauma experience. I'm not familiar nor used to having tension release. For me, it's a new experience, and I continue working on familiarizing and allowing myself to just be there for as little or as much as I can at a time. It also makes sense wanting the trauma in the body out. You deserve having trauma out of your body. It's been in your body for some time and has become familiar to your survival. It will take some time for you to feel safe in releasing. Your post provides hope to others that it can happen, and you have made a huge, safe, and brave step forward. Safe space will always be held for you and my chosen family. And then Cindy followed up and shared, maybe after she was watching some of the TRE videos, she came back and posted on her post and says, I'm continuing to work through this experience this week. And as I journaled my way through it today, I realized that by over functioning and trying to run away from my emotions, I was doing the same thing to my inner child that my mother did to her. It's no wonder she thinks that she's invisible. I've asked her to forgive me, but I have to fix this. I need her to know that she's not invisible and that I see her and I hear her and I'm willing to sit with her and she lets her deep pain, as she lets her deep pain and her sobs come out. This is so hard. And then it just continues on with community support.
Wow.
I mean, it's just the most incredible thing happens, right? When we allow ourselves to be seen by others and sort of like share like our own lived experience
Yeah.
with a community of people that we may never meet in person, but we feel connected to nonetheless. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
can't wait to hear all your wisdom about all the things.
Beautiful. I mean, I almost feel like I don't need to say anything. I don't need to add. The whole community came together with their organic, authentic, wisdom about what was happening. And it was all, so relevant, so wise, so helpful, right? And I have shared with you, earlier, we talked about support groups and like how we, right, as we have our experiences, it's in them being witnessed, right? What's going on? What's happening to me? Or what's going on inside of me? And when we can share it with other people, right, we get the validation and the feedback. And then how beautiful that Cindy was able to reflect on, wait a minute, I know what this is, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly, kind of what TRE has done for me personally. It was able to help me identify, what I already knew, but I hadn't put together. And and here is Cindy. She didn't even have to do the exercises. And that is actually what I find with most people. Less is more. Most of us are so highly charged already. We don't need a whole lot to activate the psoas muscle. I'm holding it up here. Can you see it?
Yes, I have your screen share on my
Okay.
computer ready to share if you want me to share it.
It's okay. I just wanted to hold it up so people can,
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
know what muscle that is, because it's the psoas muscle, right? This big muscle group that is what connects our lower body with our upper body. And it is our soul muscle. It's the muscle that, contracts when we don't feel safe. And that muscle runs up in through our diaphragm. And so for a lot of us, when we had to curl forward to hide, or to hold our breath to play small, or to not cry because we weren't going to show them our tears, right? Or it wasn't safe to cry, right? This whole frontal region is just compressed in together, right? And then with that, the message that's been going on inside of me, and for Cindy maybe for a long time, was that, right, this is not safe. We don't go there. We don't go there. And so by finding in a safe place, and Cindy was in her home, in her recliner, in her safe, comfortable place, watching another body do something her body already knows how to do, right? The movement of the body, expanding and contracting, all our bodies know how to do this. Our lungs, our hearts, we all do this, but we stop it because we're protecting ourselves to be safe.
Yeah.
So Cindy's body went, oh, there it is. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do that for so long. I'm holding this in so deep and I'm getting so tired. Can I just let it go? Right? So clearly, Cindy felt safe enough in her gut to start a little bit of movement.
Wow.
And some people are afraid of the movement, but if you think about it, our bodies are constantly moving. We are just not aware of it. I mean, good exercise. If you try to stand on one foot, right? You're like trying to stand, keep balance. Everything, your whole body starts to move, right? And
Yeah.
that's really what's happening constantly, but we just don't notice, right? And when we get cold, your body starts to shiver. It's trying to bring heat and energy. It doesn't want you to contract into getting too tight, because when we get too tight, that signals the brain, right? Danger, something's wrong. So
Yes.
it tries to move. And so when we come out of surgery, you know, if you've been put under for surgery, you feel that tremor. I
You know,
had a C-section.
that's true. I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead about your C-section, but I'm just
yeah,
realizing that that's very true after coming out of general anesthesia. What
yes.
did you notice after your C-section? What'd you notice?
Basically, yeah, when I come out of that, my whole, they had, it was an emergency C-section, so they had to give me a lot of drugs fast. And when I came out of that, my body was shaking so hard that they literally had to tie me down. But that was just because it was so overwhelming. So the movement in the body is helping the body to relax. It isn't going into fear. It's trying to relax. It's trying to relax the muscle. It's trying to stop the cortisol being continuously pumped into our nervous system.
Wow.
So it isn't something to fear, but it's something that's important to learn to self-regulate.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the whole self-regulation thing, because
Mhm.
you and I talked about something previously. Thank you so much to Cindy for your
Yes.
vulnerability, your your courage, and
Yep.
your willingness to
Yep.
share, Cindy.
And if
Uh,
I just want to finish my comment for Cindy, if she feels that this continues to happen, right? So how do we stop it? We lock our knees, we lock our feet and our ankles, right? We walk around, feel our feet on the ground, we ground ourselves, we lock our elbows, right? Stretch, get a drink of water, put water on your face, taking a shower, right? Your body wants to do this, but we can also talk to the body and say, great, thanks. That was enough for today. We're going to stop now.
that's good to know. I remember when we were doing our session together, you told me that it was okay to put my feet firmly on the ground, or to lock my knees, or all I had to do
Yes.
was pull my knees together in that
Yep.
moment. And
Yep.
that's really empowering, which is one of the messages for Awareness Day is we're learning ways to feel empowered, and that is very empowering. If our body's doing something that we're not sure we're okay with, we are empowered to find ways to stop it. And I love the list that you just gave Cindy so that she could feel empowered to stop what
Yep.
her nervous system was trying to do if it didn't feel safe to her.
Yep. And that's the cue, right? Is that as soon as you start to feel unsafe, right? Because it isn't that you're not safe doing it, but if your nervous system and brain, because of, right, past trauma, it doesn't take as much for you to tip into overwhelm, right? So that's why in the beginning, less is more. I will only have people maybe open up to that movement for maybe a couple of minutes. And we're way more focusing on the stopping. So you trust your body and the process, and you know how to stop it. And then we wait 24 hours. Let's see. We're creating like let's see how your body handled this. How do you feel tomorrow? Right? And
Yeah.
then we we're collecting data in the beginning. And then, like I shared with you, for a handful of people, I do a lot of, we talk about self-regulation, we talk about befriending our bodies, we talk about other tools before we do TRE.
Yes, that's what I was going to touch on when you mentioned self-regulation.
Yes.
And there's some chatter in the community about
Mhm.
like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first? Is it we learn how to self-regulate through co-regulation, or do we learn how to co-regulate through self-regulation? Now, I have my answer of what I believe is true, but it's a bit of a point of contention in the trauma community. If we didn't, in my opinion, and your opinion may be different, I don't know, but if it wasn't modeled for us, we have no clue how to self-regulate. It's not until we experience co-regulation that we even realize that we're allowed to self-regulate. So I believe that co-regulation comes before self-regulation, but I would love to hear your input on that question because it's something that's come up before.
Yeah, well, co-regulation comes when we're born to our mothers, right? We need our mothers to regulate, right? How we
Yeah.
get our nurturing. We, you know, before we speak, we are reaching for our moms or with our cries, right? We need our wiring, our brain and our body is cued to response from our parents. Right? So when we can trust that this person is responding to my needs, right? There's co-regulation, knowing when I'm in distress that this person comes and feeds me. When I'm in distress, this person comes and comforts me. I learn how to co-regulate. I mean, the co-regulation leads me to self-regulate. I know what it takes to meet that need. When I'm an infant, I need it from my caregivers, but as I mature, I learn in relationship with my parents, you know, what it takes, what are the things that I'm slowly learning to take care for myself, and what are the things that I still need to ask for support. So
Yeah.
co-regulation leads to self-regulation. And there are times when we are all going to need a co-regulator. When we are upset, when we have a bad day, you know, what do? We call our friend.
Yeah.
Right? I need someone to hold the bucket. I need someone just to breathe with me. I just need a friendly face. And it's our ventral vagal, our social engaged system that is like calling for connection.
Yeah. That parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes. Yes.
So incredible.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
incredible. The body is miraculous. Seriously.
Absolutely. And that was what brought me to TRE, right? I had tried everything under the sun, like so many of us, and a lot of it, yes, made a difference. I was making those baby steps, it all contributed, but I was still stuck in those knee-jerk automatic reactions. Like something happened that triggered something in the past. My amygdala, you know, hijacked me, and I was saying things that I was acting like my inner teenager, or I was spouting out not so pretty words, you know, thinking that I was under threat, or I was being, you know, someone was asking too much of me. And then when I calmed down, I'd be like, shoot, that's not what I meant to say. Right?
Yeah.
So that automatic response. So when I learned about TRE, I learned about, right, the body, the triune brain, and the fight, flight, or freeze states. I learned about polyvagal theory. I learned that we can constantly rewire our systems, and we do it in community. We do it with safe people.
Yeah. And it has to happen. Like if we look at Judith Herman's work, right? Like if we look at everything she says about the 3 phases of trauma recovery in her book, Trauma and Recovery, it all starts with safety, right? It all starts with safety and stabilization, finding a way to create pockets of safety in our life and in our body. And that leads to being able to acknowledge that we might have feelings and needs. Wow, what? We're allowed to have feelings and needs? And then that leads to regulation and areas of our life improving, whether it be relationships or you know, finances or physical health, mental health, all the different areas of our life. So it's just incredible. I really appreciate you. I know I already said this, but I really appreciate you being so generous with your time and with your resources and opening yourself up the way that you have so vulnerably to our community to show them what it looks like to advocate for self. Self-advocacy is so empowering.
You're so very welcome, Athena. My passion, like yours, is just to pay it forward, right? Because there was so many years where I was searching, someone that could show me how. I can feel my tears right here because I felt so broken and stupid. Like I felt so horrible about myself for so long, and like there's no hope. And then I was just like, wait a minute, are you telling me that what's going on is just my body? This is just my nervous system doing what it's meant to do. It's hardwired to keep me safe. No matter what I think is the best solution, my body is going to just jump in there, push my head out of the way and go to work. And then I slowly learned to work with it. How do I work? If I'm a textbook example of an adult that never went to bed feeling safe, like did not have a co-regulator, and I was actually put into an institution from the first 7 months of my life. So it's like something was missing. How do I bring that missing piece back? And that relentless hyper energy that so many of us have to survive, I've used it for good. I've learned to slow down a bit, but I've learned to use that curiosity to become really curious about, why is this need so big for me right now? What's the unmet need under this drive? And to use that curiosity to create safety in my body. How can my body be unsafe? It's me. Like, how can something bad live inside of me? It's me. It can't be that bad. Yes, I thought I was a bad person, but I've learned I'm not. It's a story that I made up.
Yeah.
So turning over, those beliefs one at a time as I was curious. What is happening into my body? How is my breath doing? Like you mentioned self-regulation, right? Track your breath. Your breath tells you where you are. If you're not breathing into your belly, you're in fight or flight or even freeze. Like there are things that are happening here that we can learn from and be curious. Like, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Is this helpful right now? Right? And how can I bring the hardwired system, fight, flight, freeze, that so brilliantly takes care of this? We also have, the parasympathetic, the compassion network, the nurturing network in our bodies. And I learned to work with it, placing my hand on my heart. In the beginning, I didn't want to feel this body. I didn't want to give warmth to this body. But this is my body that I have here for this life. I'm going to figure out how I can make friends with feeling what it feels. And slowly doing this, even though in the beginning, I'm not feeling anything, this isn't doing anything. One day I'm like, I'm actually feeling something. I can feel the warmth. I can feel the movement of energy in my body now, and I'm not afraid of it.
So is that a good starting place? Like, let's say someone's brand new to this healing journey and they're just starting to curiously consider the possibility that maybe their childhood wasn't idyllic. Maybe they have some unprocessed trauma in their life and they're struggling with self-loathing or self-hatred or self-criticism or an inner critic or something. I want to is that something that is a good starting point, where they can just, I don't know if I'm in,
Yes.
I don't know if I'm in the
I
camp.
see it. Yeah, I see you. It is a starting point, but for some, this is even too much. This feels too close too soon. So you can start by placing one hand on top of the other, right? And so you can feel you're touching your own hand, or you can place your hands around your elbows. So there's some connection there, right? Because to some people, this feels too much. So practice, right?
Find what feels the safest.
Yeah. And maybe look up some of the research around self-compassion. And that's what this brain needed. I needed the proof. I needed to know that it was doing something, even though I couldn't feel it. Okay, I'm willing to keep practicing because they promised me I'm going to feel this one day, that this is what I'm rewiring my system. I am bringing online the hormones, the feel-good hormones that will help with the damage that my cortisol and the stress has done in my body. So, right? So even while you're brushing your teeth, put your hand on your heart. When you stop at a red light, put your hand on your heart, right? You're having a hard conversation. Put your hand on your heart. Right. And so for me, my mantra is, and I had my phone ring 3 times a day for a while, checking in. Am I here? Am I connected? Am I kind to myself, or am I judging myself?
Those are good questions. Am I here? Am I connected? Am I kind to myself? Am I judging myself? There are, and your brain and my brain are very similar. And I know there are a lot of overachieving, overstimulated brains in our community. For me, I've been working up to placing my hand here, and you and I practiced it. And it still feels a little awkward, like it doesn't belong there, but I don't feel unsafe. And so I'm allowing myself to sort of toy with the idea of being okay with it, I guess. I practiced with my therapist this morning. When I got your text, I was just coming out of therapy. So my brain is similar to your brain, and I needed to know that there was scientific peer-reviewed research that said that doing something compassionately selfless, or that was self-compassionate related, like compassion towards self. How funny that I talked about being selfless. That's definitely not an accident. It's pretty much my what I'm hardwired to do. So I needed peer-reviewed scientific proof that I could touch in a journal or a digital journal online that I could print, that I could highlight and circle and underline and read by actual people that had to be reviewed by professors and other doctors and scientists in order to believe that it was okay for me to be nice to myself. And 2 people that I found that have devoted their lives to self-compassion research are Tanya Singer, who if you purchased the first annual CPTSD Awareness Day or today's second annual CPTSD Awareness Day workshop with SVAVA, it includes Dr. Bessel van der Kolk last year and 20 other speakers. And he mentions Tanya Singer's work on self-compassion. And that is fascinating if you can go in and read all of the scientific jargon. But for me, it brought on this feeling of homeostasis and gave me permission to be like, well, if these scientists and all these fancy people that have been educated for like 15 years say that this is something I should do, then it might be okay if I did it. Yes. So not only Tanya Singer, but Kristin Neff, Kristin, Kristen, Neff, Kristin Neff.
Yep.
Those are 2 scientists. I guess
I love Kristin Neff.
Yeah, licensed
her
care.
work.
And Bessel van der Kolk speaks very highly of both. And knowing that he's like one of the trauma pioneers, along with, I love reading Bowlesby's work with Mary Ainsworth on attachment theory,
Mhm.
that, and then also Judith Herman's work, trauma and recovery, and then all of the body practitioners, like you and I talked about last time during the workshop, like Peter
Yep.
Levine and Stephen Porges. And I'm going to link a video in the members area to your interview with Dr. David Berceli. And I thought a great way for us to sort of end our conversation today would be, I don't know, maybe share one of the light bulb moments or the aha moments, or maybe some things that you've shared with your community about when you saw Dr. Berceli helping someone else, and you said something before when we were off camera. You said, this body saw him doing something, and it was like, whoa, wow, I want that. I was wondering if maybe you could share from your heart, just sort of as like in closing or in conclusion, what that might feel like to someone who may be dissociated from their body and they don't know what it feels like to have that sort of moment of like, whoa, like everybody has it. Everybody has
Mhm.
that, but not everybody is attached to their body. A lot
Yes.
of us in the complex trauma community are floating above our bodies, or we've numbed, stuffed, and avoided our bodies at all costs.
Yep.
So how would someone recognize what you recognize, which was like, oh, I want that. Like, what would that, what might
Yes.
that feel like for them? What might that feel like for them?
Well, I'm really glad that you're asking me to identify that, because like it was very much just a head thing at the time, because right, I still knew a lot in my head, but there was something that resonated, just like my gut feeling. But when I showed up in the class a week later, I said I signed up for this workshop and I'm not exactly sure why I'm here, but my body needed to be here. And I just followed the lead, right? But it was, and I can reflect on it now. Like now when I sit down to do my work and I'm holding space for other people, I come to my truth of what I know. And what I know is that I'm sitting here and I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my stomach getting soft. My shoulders have dropped. I can hear my vocal, the air moving. I can feel the smile on my face as I look at you in delight. Right? It wasn't quite like that, but there was like this pull. Like we got to try that. Right? And it was permission. Like my body knew this is something, you know how to do. You just need someone to remind you. And we talked about being models for each other. And this was basically, I went to that space to co-regulate until I was able to self-regulate with the process.
Mm.
And that's what I do when I hold space for people that are learning TRE. I'm co-regulating with them, empowering them to self-regulate the process, to feel safe and grounded in the process. Because your body already knows how to do this. It wants to. But we're working with this brain that has some superpowers, thank goodness, right? But to bring it back online, right? So it can stay present while we're discharging, while we're letting go of the feelings, while we're letting go. And we don't go to the TRE sessions to have the memories. No, that's my favorite part about TRE, is to let the body do the work without having to know why it's tremoring. What is it releasing? I don't have to know.
Wow. So you bring up a good point, because I know there's somebody out there in our community that's watching this and they're like, I have been in therapy my whole life. I've been talking for 30 years. and I'm not better yet. I'm so done. This is just, I'm pointless. I'm broken. Or like you said, Svava, I'm stupid. Or the word that I have for me, like my version of you're stupid is wrong. Like I'm just wrong. I was born wrong. I am wrong. Everything about me is wrong. It's just wrong. I'm was just made and just am wrong. Like not bad, but just wrong. Like everything's wrong with me. Like
Yep.
that was my version of how you were, like you thought you felt stupid. For me, I
Yes.
just feel like everything about me is wrong and like
Yeah. And
unfixable.
yeah, exactly. And my stupid lives in my limbic brain and my the oldest part of my brain.
The
Those
reptilian.
two, yeah, it lives there. When I bring my prefrontal cortex online, I'm freaking amazing. And so are you. Like what our bodies can do, it's amazing. I'm in awe. Last comment, when you turned and put your hand on your, right, the selfless comment.
Oh yeah.
Right? So again, yes, doing this, I have to acknowledge this. I didn't want to acknowledge my own presence. I was constantly rejecting myself. And I know why, because I was so good at hiding even from myself. I matter. This baby girl, every time I put my hand on my heart, I see you, I feel you. No, not another day is going to go by without you not knowing that you're my most important relationship.
Oh, that is so hard. That is so hard because for many survivors of repeated relational trauma, they were taught the opposite of that, that they aren't supposed to pay attention to themselves, that they're supposed to fix everybody else and keep everybody happy and to do someone else's chores and do someone else's homework and to do someone else's job and to help others. And that is how they earn their right to take up space and breathe oxygen.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And then it becomes, right, our story, our world, our identity. Yeah, I totally get it. Like you and I've talked about, I have a whole tribe of identities, of parts. It's a full-time job sometimes.
Yes.
I'm driving the bus. Please, everybody go in the back. I'm the adult here. I'm the parent.
Sometimes I was telling my therapist this morning, I'm like, Sonia, I don't even know like who's driving the bus sometimes. Like there's this younger part of me that is like terrified that she's going to get in trouble and like she's trying to drive the bus, you know? I mean, I'm going to be 48 years old, Svava. I'm not going to get in trouble. What am I going to get in trouble for?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But it feels so real. It feels so real. And so I guess like sort of bringing it all together, our bodies already know how to tremor. And
Yes.
it is highly recommended if you're considering learning about tension and trauma release exercises that you reach out to someone who can co-regulate with you, someone that you feel safe with, someone like Svava, someone who's been trained, someone that you feel comfortable with before you try doing it on your own.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, there's thousands of practitioners. I mean, they're all over the world at this point. And so on the trauma prevention website, there's a list, there's a directory. So absolutely. And interview a few. Don't just go to the first one, you know, get to know a couple, see what feels right for this body. Right? Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Athena.
Flavia. Oh,
Yeah, you're very welcome.
thanks for inviting me to put my hand on my heart and be kind to myself. And thanks for walking your talk and being a model of someone who is healing and giving permission to so many others who might need someone to just say, it's okay. It's okay for you to heal. You deserve to heal.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Right. And take all the time you need. Take all the time you need. Honor your timing, your organic, authentic timing. Right. So
Yeah.
important.
It is important. It's very
Yeah.
important for us to not feel rushed, like we're, because if we're being rushed by someone else, then our deductive reasoning would point to that, then if we're listening to someone else's timeline, then we're really healing for someone else. So if we're going to heal for ourselves because we deserve it, we're figuring out ways to believe that we deserve it, then we need to honor our own body's timeline.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for your generosity and your time, Slava.
You're welcome, Athena. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And again, all the work that you do. So appreciated.